Hello everyone, I'm Sam from Cinch and you're joining me in a Jaguar V6 S. Now, the Jaguar V6 S is a car that's been with us for a few years now. It's Jaguar's two-seater, two-door sports car, a rival to the likes of Porsche's Cayman and other mid-sized sports cars that are supposed to get you excited but also not cost the earth when you want to buy them. Now the reason we're in this car, and this is actually the pre-facelift car, so it's a few years old now, the reason we're in one of these is because I think that this could quite possibly be the best value sports car out there at the moment to buy on the used car market. I mean, we have a few of these cars now online on Cinch and they're up for under £40,000. That's a lot of car for, I mean, when you take into account the performance of these things, not a lot of money. I mean, take into account the noise as well, it just sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Now, I don't know if you know the specifications, but I'll just give a quick run through. So it has 380 horsepower. It will do 0 to 62 mile an hour in just under 5 seconds. We have a supercharged 3-litre V6 engine, and that engine is mounted up front. It drives through an 8-speed automatic gearbox, which means I get to play with these paddles here, which in this car are actually a quite cool brassy colour. Well, the engine and gearbox drives the back wheels, which means you have the agility and the adjustability of a proper sports car. This is brawny stuff. I mean, many manufacturers now will fit all-wheel drive to their cars, Jaguar included, with the latest version of the F-Type. But I mean, I'm up here in a beautiful, but very, very cold Aberdeen area countryside. I mean, around here, the tarmac is freezing to touch. So you might think, oh, I need all-wheel drive. But I'm driving around on these country roads, places where this car is practically made to be used, and the car feels, it just feels fantastic, honestly. I'll just show you, the steering on this car is just really good, so nice. And coupled with that engine noise, it just makes you feel so connected to the machine, you just feel totally in tune. Just to illustrate with my hand what's happening in the corner, you turn in, the front, because it's a front engine car, that means all the weight, or most of the weight, is over the front wheels. So you have really good grip, even though outside it's currently 7 degrees, but it feels way colder, let me tell you that. You have loads of grip on the front because of the weight, and obviously you come off the accelerator, you go onto the brake, weight is pushed onto the front wheels, really good grip at the front, makes you feel super confident. And then as you turn in, because there's less weight over the back wheels, obviously then the back of the car is slightly more nimble. And so it means when you get on the power, if you're still carrying that momentum through the bend, the car will just begin to dance through the bend, and it's a really safe and secure thing. This road as well is quite bumpy and has a few pitted sections of tarmac, but the car rides really nicely. It's just a comfortable, predictable, and really on your side place to be. I like a low seating position. Some people will say, and I understand totally, and they prefer to be elevated. But actually when you start to enjoy country roads like this, I think you begin to appreciate the feeling of being wrapped around by the car. You feel as one with the car and you are part of the machine. And that's really the whole point of a sports car, really. It's supposed to be man, woman, and machine. You just can't stop getting excited about that noise. If we just hold back with the traffic, just listen. Sounds like a big cat. It is a big cat. V6 noises are much softer and much smoother than you get with, say, a V8 engine, which you can also get in this car, by the way. But there's a raucous, quite coarse note that comes from the exhaust of this car. I'll admit, I've pressed the exhaust button, which actually makes it a bit louder. You'll hear here, if I click that button off and give some space in the traffic. A little bit quieter. Still sounds pretty naughty though, doesn't it? Every time I get in a car that makes a good sound, I have to do a quick off-the-line start. Right, foot on the brake, on the power. You're straight up to B-road speeds, and then you can just carry that momentum through and enjoy the engine, leave it in the manual mode so you're just playing with the paddles here. The brakes are really strong, but actually the pedal itself isn't overly bitey. Sometimes you jump in a car and you touch the pedal for the first time and you're thinking, Jesus, this thing has so much braking power, but actually it's an over-assistance of the pedal pressure. Whereas this Jaguar, because Jaguar is just so good at making the controls feel just right for the package, the pedal itself, when you start to press on it softly, it doesn't actually bite the brakes that hard, and you're actually initially possibly thinking, if you're used to cars that do the bitey thing, you're thinking, the brakes aren't even that strong. But then if you press harder, then progressively it builds up until you're actually like, wow, these brakes are really strong. And I like that because it means you can be really, really controlled. And it goes with this package, as I mentioned, you've got, you know, all of this ability to control what are really strong components, you know, engine, gearbox, brakes, handling. You're able to control them really accurately, and it just makes your driving that much smoother, and it just makes driving the car that much more rewarding. And ultimately, it makes you feel like a better driver. And, you know, who are we kidding? It's great having a great car, but even better is to feel like you're the great driver behind the wheel of it. So, not surprisingly, you can probably tell that my favourite thing about the F-Type V6 S is the way it drives. It feels absolutely sublime on country roads and makes you feel special wherever you take it. But I have to admit that I do really, really like the way it looks as well. I really like the interior of this generation of F-Type because it's quite analog. I mean, we're talking analog obviously in the 21st century sense, but what I mean is there are still buttons here to click and press and to have some engagement. It feels a bit more traditional, especially compared to the very latest cars where you've just got screens galore absolutely everywhere. That being said, you do have an infotainment screen here, not the biggest in the world, but again, as I said, this is a slightly more analog display. And you've got a little screen here in the middle between two proper analog dials. So you have all the technology you'd ever need, but it still feels easier to use first and foremost. It means I can press buttons as I'm driving without actually looking at what I'm doing on the screens and stuff. And it also means that it just feels a little bit more tactile. I like the heating controls here. You've got these twisting knobs. And of course, I really like the fact that you have an exhaust button here and the fact that you have a spoiler button. That's quite fun to press that. The spoiler comes up. And then just two very simple controls here where you just slide this controller forward and back to go through your drive modes. Just makes it really easy to use. The paddles on the steering wheel aren't the biggest in the class, they never have been, but they are actually, importantly, located directly on the steering wheel rather than on the steering column here, so it means when you turn the wheel, they're exactly where you want them to be. Yeah, I think overall, the F-Type's interior has aged really well. I really, really like it. Now obviously it's not the most practical car in the world, it's a two-seater coupe of course, but you do have space in the back here for two medium-sized suitcases and whatever other souvenirs you want to bring back with you. And compared to rivals like the Porsche 911 or the Porsche Cayman, you've got all of your boot space in one place. Those cars have smaller boots in different parts of the cars because they have the engine located in the middle or in the back of the car in the case of the Porsche 911. So it's much more conventional in terms of storage space. I have to admit that those who get to see it pass by on the outside, they're also in for a treat because look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous. This design has been with us since 2013, believe it or not. Jaguar has recently facelifted it, but this original appearance is inspired by the Jaguar E-Type, that 60s sports car legend, which many people, including Enzo Ferrari, by the way, the guy, you know, the boss of Ferrari back in the old days, he said it was the most beautiful car he'd ever seen. And so the inspiration that's poured into this car, I think that's pretty much ensured that it's got to be one of the prettiest sports cars out there. And it's definitely got to be a future classic for sure. Most of the inspiration is actually at the front of the car. I mean, the silhouette is just classic sports car. A lot of people say there's a bit of Aston Martin in the lines. I don't think that's by accident. But around the front here is really where you see most of the hints of E-Type because you've got these optimistic headlights on this earlier F-Type design, sort of wide-eyed, big front grille, again, sort of wide mouth. It's a sort of an optimistic smiley face, much like the original E-Type. So I think it suits the character of the V6 really well. One feature I really like is the grille openings on top of the bonnet, which allow you to peek through to the top of the engine, and you can just see two little supercharged badges on there. So obviously they have an effect, help with cooling. You've got air coming through there and then escaping out there, but actually they also are just a pretty cool way to say this is a supercharged engine. The silhouette for the rest of the car is typical coupe. You've got a two-door body, of course. This is only a two-seater, so it means that you've got this lovely swooping roofline which can come down and obviously naturally fall off into the back here. As I said, this design comes from 2013, but I mean, it's aged brilliantly well. If this was revealed as a brand new car this year, I don't think many of us would say that this doesn't look anything other than absolutely spectacular. I really like the rear end. Obviously this S badge here obviously signifies again that this is the 380 horsepower model, the real deal basically. So the Jaguar F-Type V6 S handles great, it goes great, it sounds even better, and it looks absolutely stunning, doesn't it? And I just think it's one of the best packaged used sports cars out there. Really, at around £40,000, it represents excellent value for money as a used proposition, as a car to have amazing experiences in all the time. I don't think you could do much better. Okay, there are rivals like Porsche 911s, Porsche Cayman as well, if you're looking at a mid-engine sports car. Both of those are excellent options, but because of the badge on those cars' noses, they command a little bit more, generally speaking, on the used market. So the Jaguar really is a great value option. And also, we shouldn't forget, because it's a Jaguar, it comes with a unique British charm. I think the design in itself, the way it makes you feel, it just screams Jaguar, it just screams great British sports car. And for those of us in the UK, that has to hold some value as well. And given the price of this thing, around £40,000, depending on the exact spec you're looking at, it's getting increasingly attainable, and probably there's quite a bit of potential in there for some future classic status as well. I'm totally sold. Hopefully you are too, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like and of course subscribe to the channel, and click that bell button as well to make sure you see the next videos that we've got coming up. We've got a whole stream of videos planned, more content like this, and also some other different things as well. See you soon.